This is a hilarious moment from MSNBC. This is a true worlds colliding. I enjoy it for two reasons. It's just that crossover between these two groups is almost very rarely seen.
It needs to happen more often, honestly. It really does.
It's great television.
Yeah.
Not only is it great television, in a way, you can learn something from each other if you care to listen, which unfortunately neither group here really was. So MSNBC held a focus group with some Pittsburgh Trump supporters about Doug Mastriano and January 6th. And the takeaway from this is that neither side was at all prepared for a discussion whatsoever, and it went totally off the rails. Let's take a listen.
Mastriano was at the insurrection, and he was photographed breaching one of the restricted areas. Is that okay?
Which area? Because I saw a video where Capitol officers were taking away barriers and unlocking doors for people. So, I mean,
they opened the gates.
So it shouldn't be disqualifying for an elected official if they participated in January 6th?
He didn't strike anybody. He didn't hurt anybody.
And the only one that died was a protester there, not a Capitol police
Unarmed
officer.
female veteran.
That's the only one that died.
That's the only one who died.
A police officer did die.
No, it was a stroke.
That's
not on site.
Caused by that. That's because he shouldn't have been a police officer. It was one woman.
So what do you make, though, overall of January 6th? I mean, it was watching that footage. It was pretty disturbing. I mean, there were people throwing excrement at the walls, and it was it's the Capitol.
It looked a lot like Antifa's actions.
Yeah, it looked a lot, except on a much smaller scale. It looked the same as the Black Lives Matter riots.
That's what I saw. The similarities to
I
be.
mean, Minneapolis burns. Kenosha burns.
But so it's okay just because one side that you disagree with?
I'm saying Antifa infiltrated.
It's good for one. It's good for the other.
Anybody who harms anybody who caused property destruction, that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah,
but if you're there making your voice heard at the people's house, no less, that's, again, it's a fundamental constitutional right of an American citizen. And people should not be being held political prisoner because of it.
For misdemeanors. That's East Germany.
That's East Germany.
Tactics.
Yeah, that's what's scary.
It was an actual fiery but mostly peaceful protest. And the other ones that were the opposite.
Was the protest legitimate in your eyes?
Administration,
because
I feel like, is using it as their Reichstag fire.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're using it as. Mm-hmm.
Do you think that President Trump could have quelled the violence that day?
Not him
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so.
It started while he was still speaking. I was actually there. I was there to see what I thought was going to be the last time I ever saw Trump in Little China.
So did he tell everybody to go and start rioting?
No.
I didn't think so.
No, and actually, I stayed for the whole speech. Like, a ton of people did. Mm-hmm. And then we all headed to the Capitol because he said, let's go to the Capitol and peacefully let our voices be heard. And we get to the Capitol and we're like, what the hell's going on? Because it had already happened.
I'm pretty sure I saw Democratic operatives instigating people to cross barriers.
The part I like, I mean,
to say.
Yeah, there is a lot to say. I mean, the like cognitive dissonance part that I like the most about it is how they're both like, it was peaceful. And I actually was there and I walked over with other Trump supporters. And then at the same time, they're like, I think it was Antifa.
Yeah. What I enjoy about it is that there are certain facts that neither side has ever really heard. So I remember, I forget which guy I was interviewing. He was like, a police officer was beaten to death. And I was like, hey man, I'm not justifying January 6th. Well, this is just not true. I was like, a guy died from a heart attack. I'm not saying it wasn't precipitated by a riot, but he wasn't beaten to death. And he's like, this is a lie. Like, and I was like, oh, you don't even know the facts. Like, you're an author. And of course, on the same thing, they'll say like, on one hand, it was completely peaceful. On the other hand, there were Democratic operatives.
It was Democratic operatives.
Are they Democratic? I don't know. Were they working for the FBI? That's actually a whole other question. And really what it is that the FBI reports that you and I have delved into here, there is no acceptance or even really, frankly, awareness in a lot of the mainstream press. And that's actually part of why I think reaching a consensus on this is so difficult, which is that both sides has an array of facts, which the other is generally not aware of, and makes it so that your own, like, for example, what they're talking about, people being held in prison, that actually is a real issue in the DC jail, people being held without bail and all that, and that's what uses the political prisoner rhetoric and all that. I don't even think many mainstream reporters are even aware. And if you are aware and you support it, and I think you should just say that, but the fact is that it's new info coming at each other at the time, and it just highlights like how far past each other most people are. And in general, though, I support this. I thought it was good. I'm glad that they aired the entire segment.
Yeah, I think they should do more, even though it has a feel of like, remember right after 2016, they were all like, let's go on safari in the industrial Midwest where we've never set foot and really don't understand. There was sort of like a caricaturish view that was created, but I still think that's better than nothing. And yeah, I mean, to me, the biggest takeaway from this, like, obviously they've been filled full of all kinds of propaganda, very selective telling of the facts, things that are in Congress that don't even make sense together. All of that being said, it would be a lot better if we didn't have completely siloed information systems. And in a way, the direction that media is going in, there is a even larger risk that we silo even further.
Oh, that's their fault. See, that's MSNBC's fault.
Well, yeah, I mean, 100%. But what I'm talking about is even in the new independent media landscape, there's a lot of opportunity for siloing and increasingly actually niche factions. So it's not just like the Democratic view of the world and the Republican view of the world, but there's like these increasingly siloed viewpoints that are totally shut off from other parts of the news and information ecosystem. So it is like, I mean, this is a challenge that is going to have to continue to be confronted and dealt with. I mean, it's part of what we try to do here and try to, you know, keep each other in check and try to meld together our different information ecosystems and all of those sorts of things. But unfortunately, I think these, like, even as cable news, which has been such a destructive and nefarious and divisive actor in American political life across the board, even as we watch its decline and demise, there are no guarantees that what comes after is going to ultimately serve the public better.
No guarantee, but I just think it's their fault. I mean, in general, like, I bet you, I mean, I always think about that profile of one of the guys who had a heart attack on January 6th, and I'm just laughing because it was like, they described it as like one of the most exciting days of his life, but which I just think is pathetic for anybody, really. And he was an Alabama guy. He voted for Obama, like 2008. It's from ProPublica, if anybody's interested in reading it. Like, basically lost a union job and just lost his mind after became unemployed.
We've met
sitting
some
at
of
home.
those people.
I was saying, Krystal and I recently had a run-in with a full-blown QAnon supporter, and, you know, it's aggravating and it's really annoying to be spouted at a bunch of conspiracy, but it also came out that this person had lost their house in 2008 and had been completely screwed by the system. And so I'm not explaining like why I think these views are good, but like, I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I could somewhat understand like the social conditions through which something like this can arise. You can choose to take that view of it, or you can take the other view of it.
I mean, look, ultimately, MSNBC, CNN, Fox News, they're looking out for their bottom line. The thing that sells for them is feeding a selective view, selective facts, partisan view of the world. You know, that does, where the answer to every segment on Fox News is, therefore, Democrats are bad. And the answer to every segment on MSNBC, is, including this one, I'm sure, is, therefore, Republicans are bad. They don't do that because, you know, they're good people or bad people or evil people or wonderful people or whatever. They do it because that's what clicks, that's what sells, that's what their audience has become accustomed to ultimately wanting. And so you have to dismantle that system. But the point I'm getting at is you have to be thoughtful about what replaces it to, you know, deal with those issues and that incentive structure that ultimately leads to, you know, us basically living in like two different realities, two different countries, two different views of the world, at least two different views of even how events are ultimately unfolding. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.